Welcome back to our second video in the series about the Tesla stock price and what it's going to do in 2024 and 2025. And in the last video, we discussed quickly the three major segments. Tesla's innovating in EVs and energy, which is a $3 trillion market cap opportunity. FSD, which is a $15 trillion market cap opportunity. And of course, humanoid robots, which is an uncapped opportunity. But for now, we assume a $30 trillion market cap opportunity. And we have seen that Tesla in general has like an 80, 90, 95% chance of capturing all these market caps over time. And of course, we don't just want to predict the future. We want to predict when the future is going to happen. That's the point of this video, to get you a little bit closer into the timelines and catalysts before we jump in the third video into the actual stock price prediction, something you should never do, but we do anyways. So for the catalyst in this video, we have to understand that we are talking about a $50 trillion market cap potential combined in the medium term. Now, what is this medium term? Well, that's up for debate. And we discuss, is it 2050, 2040, 2030? And of course, it makes an enormous difference on our decisions here. So, in order to understand what this timeline actually looks like and the catalysts look like, let's start with a first principle overview over the big things that are surrounding this amazing story of Tesla. And the first principle that gives me a high confidence that things are happening faster than people think is the AI acceleration story. So as you probably heard, AI is advancing very rapidly after the ChatGPT moment in 2023. And the reason for that is new neural nets, the transformer model revolution, and the enormous influx of talent and capital into the AI space that we are seeing now. Now you have to triangulate here to connect the dots for Tesla. But Tesla is sitting in a little bit, even Tesla is a giant. It also stands on the shoulders of giants in AI on an entire space that's accelerating. That's also the reason why FSD, for example, is so disruptive, because they can learn from all these other guys. And that actually happens. It's not just Tesla innovating. Tesla can suck up all the innovation surrounding it. And the AI acceleration is, I think, the most profound technological disruption humanity has ever seen. I think in a very bad way, ultimately, but for now, that's a different story. In the short term, it's going to enable things we can't even imagine. The second first principle that makes us bullish on Tesla and on the story that's evolving here, unfolding, is the Tesla pioneer story. And as you know, I'm a big fan of Pioneer Land. It's a narrative that I'm trying to convey to everyone, what we are doing here at Quanchine, building the future of medicine and transforming the way we can live forever, hopefully very soon, and defeat chronic diseases. The same is true in other segments. That's why I'm doing the Tesla commentary. I think Tesla is the great, iconic, pioneering company with the great, iconic pioneer at its helm, Elon Musk, that we can all look at to learn how disruption in medicine, disruption in education, in cities, in communities actually will happen. And we can learn from Elon and these predictions. So the reason I'm so bullish on Tesla is because it is a deeply pioneering company at its core because of Elon. And once you have a company like that, they can do magic. They can engineer reality in ways that regular companies with regular employed CEOs have no chance of doing. So that's why I think Tesla has no real competition in the automotive market or in the energy market. I think the only competitors Tesla has are companies that are set up in a very similar way. NVIDIA with Jensen Huang, who is also a great pioneer. Meta with Mark Zuckerberg, whatever you think of him, he is a smart cookie and he is a true pioneer and entrepreneur on top of it. So these, and then of course the other AI companies, Sam Altman at OpenAI, Dario Amodei at Anthropic, and so on. So whenever Elon faces people like that, we have to take that competition very seriously. Wherever he faces just some random, Harvard MBA CEO or something, they have no chance. That's true for the entire automotive industry. These two first principles, Tesla as the pioneering company and the AI revolution, stand behind all these catalysts. So this having said, let's jump into the actual catalysts by segment that are going to happen and that tell us a little bit about the stock acceleration. When it comes to EVs and energy and the disruption that's coming, here's the timing that I see. When you look at the prices of EVs, right now EVs have a 7.6% US market share. I believe this goes towards 50% plus by 2028. And here's why. EVs are inherently superior to any ICE vehicle, except for the, headline price. And they're cheaper to maintain, they're better to drive, they have higher performance, they need less maintenance. So it's all about at what point does the price of EVs become cheaper, the initial purchasing price, than ICE vehicles? And at what point do you hit this median price point of 25,000, 25 to under 30,000, somewhere there, the median car sold in the United States? Now, we know that Tesla is going to launch a sub $30,000 car this year and probably start scaling it next year. So this is already happening. We know at that point, the price point will be below a comparable ICE vehicle. I think people underestimate the level of disruption this will generate in terms of adoption. Because people are inherently, especially in this lower price segment, everyone is inherently an economist. People are not willing to spend more money than they need to. And once this becomes an insurmountable, moat against ICE vehicles because it's cheaper and better to drive, it's game over. And I think the adoption will be dramatic. Because if you're an average citizen, you're not willing to spend crazy amounts of money on something you don't need that's worse than the alternative. And that point, that hard inflection point in EVs is probably going to come latest in 2026. Some argue it's already here in the higher priced vehicles, but it's latest here in 2026. And that creates this wall that we are approaching for the ICE industry. And that wall is a forcing function. It's a forcing function for massive EV adoption. So I think we haven't even seen the highest levels of growth for this industry. They are coming starting in 2026. So that gives us a time point, right? The EV segment, total disruption, total Tesla domination is going to happen latest by 2026. It's going to start in earnest. Okay, then in the EV and energy market, we also have a bunch of surprises coming that people don't really expect. For example, most major OEMs that produce ICE vehicles, they will have to license Tesla FSD, of course, because no one can compete. So they need to license Tesla FSD, which will lead to a massive expansion. That belongs more in the FSD segment, but it has to do with cars. Another surprise that will be coming is major OEMs will start to have to start licensing Tesla drivetrains and batteries. So what is the future of all these OEMs and their brands like, Bentley and Rolls-Royce and, Cadillac and Buick and Ford and all these people? Well, they need to have to switch to Tesla drivetrains, to Tesla batteries, because there's an insurmountable lead at this point that they can never catch up to. And they will have to preserve their brands and use their brands and their ability to market brands, sell something to niche audiences, and the ability to do interior design and all that kind of stuff. And that will lead to an industry and world where everyone uses core-based drivetrains from BYD and Tesla and companies like that. And the old OEM car companies, just if they survive, become just branding companies that make nice little chassis, kind of. That's going to happen. Probably most people don't see it yet, but that's going to happen in the next 2 years. This will become very clear. And over the next 24 months, we see these news trickling in, right? The first one is going to announce, oops, we are going to partner with Tesla and going to use a drivetrain to, launch this car line and so on. That then will trickle down into the analyst mind and they will say, oops, we totally did not account for that. And then they will have to model that growth into their models, which is a massive growth boost too. So I think in the end, Tesla will not end up with 20% of the car market. I think they will end up with something significantly higher on the platform level. There might be in the end only a handful of these drivetrain companies, BYD, Tesla, maybe 2 or 3 others. And Tesla will be the dominant player, maybe with one Chinese competitor. And they will provide the drivetrains and core technology for all cars in the world. It's just the only way this can go. Unless Tesla decides to get out of that business, but I don't think so. So all these catalysts are coming. I believe they're coming in the next 24 months, that we will realize all these additional huge revenue streams. Now let's get to the more interesting pieces here. FSD. On full self-driving, you know that I believe it's a $15 trillion market cap for Tesla that they will capture here. And the question again is, when is this going to happen and what are the key catalysts? As you know, my theory here is that the timeline for FSD will be accelerated and that we will see by the end of 2024 major breakthroughs. Here's why. FSD 12 is a complete shift in technology framework that Tesla uses. Tesla used to work for the last 10 years on the wrong kind of model because no one had the right model, on kind of a handcrafted FSD situation like Waymo and these guys. With FSD 12, Tesla brings to bear the latest in end-to-end neural nets and can train the cars by just having cars watch videos. And Tesla has, as you know, endless amounts of videos because they own the entire install base of the Tesla fleet. And by doing so, we have already experienced very exponential advancements in full self-driving since the release of FSD 12. That's also what the analysts get wrong. They're extrapolating from 10 years of FSD progress to what's happening in the next 12 months. Completely wrong, because we have a step change in technology. FSD 12 is going to make an enormous difference. And the timeline, if you extrapolate the exponential curve and you see these releases of FSD 12, I think it's pretty safe to say that by the end of the year, we have solved the problem. Most people don't think that's true. I do think it's true. And in addition to that, I think people also vastly, misjudge the situation on the regulatory side, because you don't need regulatory approval across the United States to cover major markets. I give you an example. Which markets will Tesla easily capture in 2025? Think about it. Florida, because there's not much regulation. Las Vegas and Nevada, because there's not much regulation. Los Angeles and San Francisco, because the regulation has already been solved with Waymo. China, we know there are deals coming and we know that China can act fast. If you put that into numbers, Florida, 20 million people, LA and SF, 20 million people. China, let's say 60 million people, 5% of the population covered in a handful of cities. That means by 2025, assuming I'm right and FSD is ready for prime time and can be rolled out, Tesla could have already a market of 100 million people covered with robotaxis in 2025. And I think based on that math, by 2027, they could have 1 billion people covered by robotaxis. Okay, now that is surprising because most people say this is going to take forever. I think they're completely wrong. Why is it going to take forever? You can order Waymos all day long in San Francisco and LA. They're pretty regulated markets. They have it done. Of course, they're Waymo, so they don't have the cars. They suck on all kinds of levels. But Tesla is going to roll out these robotaxis like crazy, including their app, including availability. Then we have the Cybercab ramp. I mean, just do basic math. If they launch the Cybercab in 2025, let's say they produce 10 to 20,000 in 2025, they're getting to 100,000 plus production rate in 2026. I think we can assume that. So they could have 100,000 Cybercabs on the road in 2026. That's a lot of money. The strategy with FSD in terms of existing models, they already lowered the price to $99 a month. It's important to get more existing Tesla drivers into the FSD. And I think that was a very smart move. And I think 99 is a beautiful price. I would opt in. Why not 99 a month? And you have a self-driving car. I think that's going to ramp like crazy. And I do not believe, by the way, this upfront $8,000 substitute for the 99 a month is something that is too great. I think people opt in for the 99 a month. I think a lot of people will opt in. And I think Tesla will expand or extend their 3-month FSD to 3 months or something. So if you buy a new Tesla, I think the smart move here is, and they will do that over time, give them 3 months free, maybe a year free later, because there is a real effect on Tesla making money and creating advancements by having more FSD users. So that's going to happen. And finally, I talked about this in the video before. The big question is, let's assume all this is true and we have full self-driving end of this year, ready to go. We have all these cities ready to launch in 2025. We have 100,000 cabs on the road in 2026. What about people accepting this? Right? You hear all these videos saying, oh, I would not go into a cyber cab. I would be afraid it kills me. I don't want to be the first. Well, first of all, you're not going to be the first. You just be the second, right? That happens after day one. Day one, you have a bunch of first people and then everyone is the second. So this is not a big problem, even if you're a little scared. People get used to these things extremely quickly. I would say within a month, everyone is on board. Second, as I mentioned before, I think this August 8th date where the cyber cab is being revealed, and Elon already gave us a hint what cyber cab, what the robotaxi will look like. It's not random that he calls it cyber cab. The cyber cab follows the same design language as the cyber truck. I think this crazy futuristic design, while it might hurt some elements of cyber truck demand, everyone who doesn't want to look too crazy doesn't want to buy a cyber truck. When it comes to the cyber cab, it's very different because you're not buying these things, you're using these things. And the crazier it looks like and the more futuristic it is, the more people will use it because you're not buying it. You are out at night on Saturday night, downtown LA, downtown Seattle, wherever you are, downtown New York. You're going to order this thing. You look super cool. Everyone is going to like it. The crazier, the better. So having the cybercab design live will generate enormous amounts of demand. Just think about it. It's going to be billions and billions of dollars in free marketing again. Billions. It's the biggest marketing coup ever to design this thing like the Cybertruck and then deploy it. We will have millions on the wait list or millions downloaded this app, probably end of 2024, much faster than people think once they announce it's happening. And once it launches, it will be rapid adoption. So again, I don't want to just bullish here, but when you think about these things, when you imagine a cyber cab driving around or hundreds of thousands of these driving around, you can order them. They cost a third of an Uber. They look super cool. They are completely the future. People will jump on these things like crazy. And then over time, they will realize it's actually cheaper to use them than anything else. People underestimate how fast this is going to happen. Now, that's why, ARK Invest and others have price targets of $2,000 for Tesla just based on that. And I think, again, in the next 12 months, most of that will happen in terms of public perception. And finally, let's get to the third big piece of Tesla, which is Optimus and the humanoid robots. Again, Optimus and the humanoid robots ride on that insane AI transformation curve that is underrated and that happens much faster than people think. Just look at the major breakthroughs in humanoid robots. Figure 1, the Chinese guys, and you see on YouTube what these robots can do. It's mind-boggling. And that was in March 2024. Tesla is pretty, they're already in the finish line with Optimus. They're not even talking too much about it. They're working literally on deploying Optimus in their factories. And I mentioned that before. That's why Tesla is so powerful with these Optimus, in the Optimus situation, because they're the only company who can deploy at scale these amazing humanoid robots in their own factories and create this install base that allows them to train and learn about real industrial deployment of these robots. And I think they will do that, starting to do that at scale in 2025. They will put a lot of these robots into their own factories. In my opinion, when you do the math on, or not the math, the Bayesian probabilities on the attractiveness of Optimus, I think, just imagine you had a commercially available consumer Optimus ready to go. So you can go on the website and you say, I want to buy an Optimus, and it costs $25,000, let's say. How many people do you think will pre-order an Optimus for their home, for private use? I tell you, it's going to be millions of people. It's going to be $50 billion in pre-orders. Everyone is going to order this thing for fun. And people, again, underestimate the enormous demand pull Tesla and Elon Musk have on this, and a humanoid robot has. So again, I discussed it with some people who know the space or have good takes on it. They say there is still a risk to deploy them at home, like there's a liability risk and so on and so forth. I disagree to some extent, right? Humanoid robots, you could, if you have a motorcycle or something, it's also great liability risk. You can put all kinds of constraints on that. I think it's going to happen sooner than later, probably in 2025, that people will be able to buy these Optimus robots. And then the AI acceleration that we see will lead to pretty powerful robots in 2025. And with powerful, I mean they will be at the brink of being kind of a cash flow positive investment for everyone. And in 2026, it's going to be game over. These things will work. And then it comes down to demand and production and ramp. So people still think this is complete science fiction. We don't have to, put it into any stock market and revenue vertical predictions. I disagree. I think by 2026, humanoid robots will be among us. There will be cash flow positive investments and an insane trajectory of scale, revenue, and margin is going to happen to the order of $30 trillion a year. And will ramp straight into that number within 5 or 10 years. And at that point, once you have the first time an analyst has to recognize that, puts the margin and draws this trajectory, then my $50 trillion market cap estimation for Tesla will become official Wall Street estimates. And you know what that means. So let's quickly go through the key catalysts in 2024, the tactical catalyst. We have June 13th for the shareholder meeting. When you look at the last shareholder meeting, I think the main news will be Optimus update. So June 13th, I think we'll hear much more about the Optimus situation. Maybe they talk about an affordable model unveil in Q4. If they don't talk about the affordable model unveil, the sub $30,000 model, and when the unveil of that model will be, the event where they launch it, which I think will happen in Q4. If they don't announce it at the shareholder meeting, they're probably going to announce it at the Q2 earnings in July 17th. The earnings, July 17th, we will talk about higher margins. We will talk about growth outlook that 2024 probably will come in at higher sales than 2023. I think that's likely to happen. Improvement of margins above expectations. Cybertruck ramp, they will report it's all on track to get to 2,000 a week. And then, as I mentioned, if they don't talk about the unveil date for the affordable model, which will be huge in Q4, if they don't do it on the shareholder meeting, probably they will do it at Q2. And then, of course, in August, so you have June, July, and then you have August. So this will be a very interesting summer. You have the Cybercap unveil, and we will announce the deployment in cities. I think that's going to happen. I think they will say, oh, surprise, we have that thing ready to deploy. We have the regulatory approval in these following cities, or we plan to get it. So that will be a surprise because that means it's ready to be deployed. They will announce production and ramp plans. They will announce progress on FSD and demonstrate how strong FSD is. And they will talk about the projected endpoint where this is fully FSD, level 4. They will talk about the FSD adoption by customers. So how many customers have opted into this new price point of $99 a month, which is important to feed the thing. And of course, very importantly, they will present the thing. They will present the Cybercap. And I would bet, I would place a 95% bet that this design will look like the Cybertruck, but cooler, as a cab where you can go in. There are all kinds of advantages to this design. It's very attention grabbing. There's no downside to an attention grabbing design for that kind of business use case. And it's going to be mind boggling. And it's going to look like the future. And it's going to create billions and billions of dollars in immediate and long-term marketing value for Tesla and the Cybercab. And then in Q4, final point for 2024, you will have Q3 earnings. You will have the affordable model unveil, probably, very likely. When it comes to that affordable model, I think what I would do if I was Elon, of course, they know much more than me about the internal production logic of Tesla, but I would opt for something that uses their existing platforms, don't reinvent the wheel. The Model 3 right now is priced at $39,000. In my opinion, they can basically generate a cheaper Model 3 for $29,000. So get under this $30,000 price point. There can be some surprises how this is much quicker than people thought. It could be a cheap Model 3 kind of thing. You could reduce the range from 350 miles to 250 miles, which saves you a ton of money. That's how you get under 30,000. You can deploy unboxed production method, which is this new amazing thing where you basically can put these cars together like Legos much more in modules instead of first building the outer hull and then going inside the car, which is very wasteful. And I think in conjunction with much more demand, much higher scale, less battery, unboxed production, you can get the price and manufacturing price down enough on a Model 3 basis to, go below these $30,000. And that would be very lean because it doesn't require a lot of investments. And they already hinted at that at Q1, but I think that's what we are going to hear when they unveil it. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? Going into 2025, we will have a ton of tailwinds. We will have a Cybercab and robotaxi deployment plan that will be much faster and much bigger and much more, baked than people expect. You will have Optimus commercial launch in 2025, and maybe that's going to get announced already this year. People will be shocked by the advancements we see with Optimus, way ahead of schedule, what people believe. And you will see the whole EV and energy business coming back with higher margins, renewed growth outlook, driven mostly by this cheaper car, but also by the automotive cycle. So to summarize this whole thing, the real reason I'm so bullish right now is Tesla stock has been consolidating over 4 years now, not done much. And it's always the same thing. Tesla goes flat and then goes up vertically. I think we are approaching this vertical move up. I think it's on the tailwinds of the AI revolution that has changed the FSD and the Optimus rationale. I think people are heavily underestimating what's going to go on in AI. I think it's the biggest revolution we've ever seen. I think it's a very dangerous revolution that will put us all at extreme risk in 5 years or something. But that is because it injects a massive amount of new power and capability. I think there will only be a few winners, large winners, and I think Tesla will be at the top of these companies. I think the comps of Tesla are Microsoft, Google, Meta, OpenAI, NVIDIA. These are the competitors. And I think Tesla is much more of a player in AI than people understand. And Tesla, of course, at its core is driven by a true pioneer, Elon Musk, who understands first principles, who reimagines the future, and who takes bold actions to get there. That is the secret here. AI combined with Tesla's pioneering DNA, and that puts them on a trajectory to use these catalysts in the next 12 to 24 months, to achieve the next massive step change in their stock price. Now, after the first video, now we have a little bit more timing introduced here, a little more quantification when what is going to happen. And I will use the next video to do what you should never do, predict the stock price on a timeline. my favorite. It's my favorite because it's technically impossible, and it's such a great challenge. And if you're an advanced, investor and trader, I think that's the great holy grail that in the end everyone fails at doing. But I like to have a challenge, and I want to share with you what I think the stock price is actually going to do on a timeline over the next 12 to 24 months. So I will have some disclaimers in the next video. This is not investment advice, and so on and so forth, but it's going to be fun to look at that. So I hope you tune in. And as always, leave your comments. I'm more than curious to hear what you think about this whole thing. And there will be always heated discussions here. I get it. And see you in the next video to discuss what the stock price is actually going to do now.